try and localize responsibility for the unmotivation away from the student.
Right.
And something that Helen, I can't remember her last name, said on the first week of INTAPT was that we spend a lot of our time in education, perhaps way too much of it focused on students who are not succeeding or who are not interested in succeeding. And perhaps not enough time on those who are the ones we should be nurturing, that are excelling, that have the most to offer, and who can contribute the most to education. And I think that that's an important fact to remember, because sometimes you will encounter people who are not motivated, who are not responsible, and who are not accountable. And it may be for external factors, and you should, as an educator, make an effort to try and help them. But you should also know when to cut your losses and call it a day, and allow that person to be responsible for their own learning, up into including the extent of having to withdraw from the course. So I think there's a limit there, and I would just say that.
Yeah, I agree.
So unfortunately, it's still a very controversial position.
Absolutely.
So we have an excellent list here. Thank you for everybody for contributing. So now, here as an educator in our daily jobs and as a family member or as a friend, seems like many of us has encountered an unmotivated student. So which brings me to the topic of what are the characteristics of an unmotivated student. I think you guys have basically covered it all, but some more that I found from research was that the student might seem sluggish, lackluster, or emotionally flat. They may sit in class and not do anything or sleep. And they express no concern of the incomplete work that they missed, and only work when the instructor is hovering over them or telling them what to do. And they need to be frequently reminded to stay on task. And they do not ask questions, do not participate or volunteer, and does not appear to enjoy learning at all, and have frequent absences or illnesses. Also, they can frequently skip class or skip assignments, not make up missed work, lack responsibility, and fail to begin or finish tasks, not participate in groups or sharing, and have others report that they're not contributing or doing their part, or have an I don't care or whatever attitude. So now let's bring it back and talk about the cause and the making of an unmotivated student. So lifespan development theorists clarify and refine adult learning principles by addressing the readiness to learn aspect of the learning event. Motivation and readiness to learn will vary primarily according to the life development stages. So that's to say, adult learning facilitators must be attentive to the learner's stages of development and tailor learning experiences to fit that developmental stage. However, it is not necessary to sit by passively and wait for learning to occur naturally. There are many ways to induce readiness to learn through exposure such as models of superior performance, coaching, career counseling, simulation exercises, and other techniques. And keep in mind that adults are responsible to some external motivators, such as better jobs, promotion, a higher salary, but most of the potent motivators are internal pressures, such as the desire for increased job satisfaction, self-esteem, and quality of life. Research found that all normal adults are motivated to keep growing and developing, but this motivation is blocked by barriers such as negative self-concept as a student, inaccessibility of opportunities or resources, time constraints, and programs that violate the principles of adult learning theory, as found by Knowles. So why is it that disengaged and motivated students can spend hours playing video games? Video games offer more than graphic imagery. They give students an opportunity to use immediate feedback to get to the next level. Each failure results not in disappointment or disengagement, but in the immediate pursuit of improvement. These ideas are neither universal nor guaranteed, but taken together, they represent an opportunity to motivate both students and teachers. These students, whether they're 7-year-olds or adult learners, both have some motivational patterns that are similar. Learners are more engaged and learn better when they are challenged, when they exercise choice, when they feel significant, and receive accurate and timely feedback, as well as knowing that they're competent. So climate that promote motivation. Learning theories stress the importance of a psychological climate that is safe, caring, understanding, and trusting, have orderliness, have clearly defined goals, includes a careful explanation of expectations and opportunities, have openness of the system for questioning and inspection, give honest and objective feedback, respect individual and cultural differences, make sure the anxiety levels are appropriately controlled, enough to motivate but not too much to block. And achievement motivations are encouraged for those students that respond to them, as well as feelings that are relevant to learning as ideas. So these can all be described as a mentally healthful climate. In encouraging active participation of students, a safe and supportive environment must be provided at all times. The following 9 strategies can move the student from a reluctant learner to a motivated learner that is intrinsically motivated. So step number 1 is to encourage students to draw on their past experiences and facilitate a dialogue of discussion with regular active participation. Step number 2 is to encourage students to share their own learning expectations and goals related to the course content. Number 3 is to provide resources for the struggling students, such as mentorship, coaching, or counseling services. Next is to provide real-life applications through simulations, case studies, and role-playing activities, like the one we did yesterday. Number 5 is to provide visual aids or even field trips that enhance the students' learning and application of the learning outcomes. Next is to invite guest speakers that are experts in the field. Experts can pique students' interest and highlight relevance of the learning concepts being taught. So for example, in this course, many of the guest speakers motivated me as a learner and opened my eyes to things I've never thought about before. Step number 7 is to talk with students about how the class assignments are relevant to their future goals. Number 8, teach students to reflect and take control of their own learning by using weekly reflections to seek feedback about their own performance and to allow the student to realize their own knowledge gaps. And finally, empower students by teaching them where to find materials and how to use online resources in the e-learning community. So now there are 2 cases that deal with the unmotivated, question.
I have a question. So we are talking about unmotivated student, like the one who's not interested by the material and in the negative way. But what about unmotivated student because they find that the material is too easy, or like the high functioning level students? So what do we do with them?
That is a good question. What do we do about the high function students? For example, my brother, he's in elementary school, and some of the things the teachers allows him to do is to do a grade higher than what he's actually capable of. So for example, the teacher would provide him with extra homework that induce the learning that my brother finds too easy. For example, he'll find math problems for a higher grade and give that to my brothers to induce learning.
So finding challenges that are kind of optimal to them. So yeah, it might need a different approach for different learners you have to get them a higher level.
Right.
Or maybe we have to consider to make the class separate into 2, foundation class and advanced class, and move the students into classes accordingly. Maybe.
Would you consider,
Sorry, go ahead.
would you consider that a learner though, and like in that situation, like in your case, always, if they already know the information, then, and you're trying to teach them something they already know, maybe the problem is that they're on their own role to begin with, as a learner. You have to change the content and then become learner for that content. But if they already learned it,
sort of what I was gonna say, that, you know, like maybe they know everything from a medical expert role, but they don't know it from an efficiency perspective, or they don't know it from an advocacy perspective, or they don't know, like if you think about, you have years of experience, even if it's only 1 year, you have more experience than a learner right here, so, if they're already managing well in one area, then I change the topic, right? Because you can think, when you say every case is a teaching case, maybe the content, the medical content is not novel to them, but there are something else. Or your question, how would this change if it was a 93-year-old patient? Make a mistake.
Yeah, that's a good point, but it's one-on-one teaching, but then you're like big classes are, even if it's small, because
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe you can take them to higher level, like let them teach. Like take them to higher level, like let them teach. So I think this will be a new challenge for them to teach their colleagues.
I don't know until you mean the unmotivated learner in this type that he is unmotivated because he's genius. Because one of the instructors in my Boston stuff, I will not say his name, he's PhD. And he used to tell us in the class that when he was in the school, he was not doing his homework to the extent that the teacher, when he was revising the students' homework in the class, he was not coming to his side. Just he fed up and he gave up and he will not go to his side. But now he's PhD and he's well qualified. And I asked him in the class, why you used not to do your homework and not to be motivated in the class? He said because always he was thinking higher and above level.
Definitely,
Thank you for the excellent discussion. So now we're going to move on to the case study, how to deal with the unmotivated student. So case example 1, the learners are disadvantaged citizens who lack the basic literacy skills to obtain well-paying jobs. They have been struggling in life, holding minimum wage jobs because of low reading and math skills. They're unsure whether they want to enroll in a workplace literacy program to improve their literacy skills. So due to time constraints, I won't ask you how would you tackle this problem, but I will present you with the answers. So the problem is that self-directedness of the learners is weakest because the learners have a history of being not successful in the similar learning situations. They often lack confidence as learners when it comes to reading and math, and the prior experiences with this type of learning could be a significant barrier to learning if self-directed education is thrusted upon them too quickly. However, the good is that they have exhibited successful learning in other parts of their lives, so the potential for self-directedness and success in learning exists, but they will need strong support initially. The take-home message being, number 1, tap into the learner's fear and find out the reason behind why they think they cannot complete the given task. Number 2, help them work through their fear and then empower them. And then give them the strong initial support that's needed at the beginning of the learning period. This will give them the opportunity to see that they can complete the work on their own, just with minimal help from you. And the self-empowerment will lead the learner to require less and less help from you in the future. So for case number 2, the municipal government has developed a new management development program to help change the organization to a high-performance workplace. The audience are experienced managers who consider themselves to be reasonably accomplished at their jobs. The goal of the program is to enhance organizational performance. Therefore, learners will not have much choice about the content of the learning. So the problem with this one is that effort will have to be devoted to convincing the learners that the need to know, because some may perceive that they don't need this program. The program aims to challenge the learners' mental models of management development as it presents a new approach to managing the public sector. Therefore, the prior experience will actually be a barrier to learning. There is little formal payoff because public sector employment do not allow for performance or skill-based pay increase. So much of the payoff will be intrinsic, and learners will have to be convinced of this value. However, the good is that once these high management learners understand the principles and necessity of the program, they will be able to identify the need to know and in turn be motivated to participate in the program. So the take-home strategies are: number one, explain to the learners the reason for learning. Help them understand the problem that enacted the program to take place in the first place. Explain to the learner the steps they need to complete during the learning process. And finally, help them identify the intrinsic payoff and convince them of the important value.
So we're now going to do a pop quiz. So if you guys can get out your handheld devices or your laptops and log into b.socrative.com. It's going to be a little similar to what we did yesterday.